Thank you for joining the FFL Republic Guardian Redemption Gravity new orientation call. What we're going to do today, just to preface what this is about, is just going to be more about the foundation and the fundamentals of what an appointment should look like. So this is not going to be built around pulling out emotions from our clients or anything like that. There's so many other top producers that can do that much better than I can. So if you're struggling with objections or how to pull out emotions or how to close, go ahead and YouTube that. What this is for is going to be for those newer agents that are wanting to get started but don't really know if they're doing things the right way, if they have all of the printouts that they need. So we're going to kind of go over that. So expectations, and then we're going to talk a little bit about lead flow and what that should look like, making sure your appointments are ready. And then if there's time at the end, we'll do some Q&A. So I think the biggest thing when you're a new hire or when you're just getting started, your first 30 or 60 days, is really setting up the right expectations for yourself. So making sure that you understand that just because someone came in and wrote $10,000 their first week and you didn't, doesn't mean that this business isn't for you. It just means that you're taking a different path, and some people take a little bit longer. So make sure that you allow some grace and give yourself enough time to get over that learning curve. The other thing is making sure that you're self-motivated. So I understand that we're here as leaders to help motivate you guys, but you really need to make sure that you're doing things that are setting you up for success. So being able to motivate yourself is one of those things. You know, I'm not always going to be there for my entire team to be able to cheer and rah-rah. So you have to find a why within you that's going to continue to motivate you. The other thing is ownership. So if you're going out and you've bought a batch of leads and you're not having success, you need to find the ownership and understanding that this business is very quick to identify what you're doing well and what you're not doing so well. If you are booking a ton of appointments and then you're not sitting with any families, then you know it's a phone issue. If you are not booking very many appointments and you're getting in the home and you're able to sell the few appointments that you have, then you know that you need to get better on the phone, or that you need to set more appointments, right? Or if you're getting in the home and you're just not closing any, then you know it's an in-home issue. So there's a lot of trainings that are at our disposal. So I want to make sure that you guys are holding yourself accountable. Absolutely raise your hand to any of your leaders if you feel like you need additional training, and then we can point you in the right way to go. The chances are we're not going to be able to sit with you for an hour and go through every single time you're feeling that, but we'll know someone that does it really well or what direction to take you. So make sure that you're adapting and that you don't quit. The biggest thing in this business when you're new is understanding that the first 6 months are really hard. Even if you see someone that's a top producer, I can bet they have really bad days sometimes. So come in and understand that it's not going to always be peaches and rainbows. There's going to be days where you have 8 appointments and 0 show. And then the next day you may have 8 appointments and sell half of them. So understanding that this is a numbers game and starting with your mindset is just something I wanted to go over quickly. In regard to boot camp, any of you guys that haven't gone through boot camp, make sure that if you are getting ready to get on the phones, you do boot camp. Do it twice if you need to. If you don't have boot camp, I know there are some newer people. Reach out to your upline, and we'll make sure that you get it. The other thing I wanted to go over is just getting your appointment started. So what does that look like? What do you need as a new person? So number one, you're going to need an iPad. So if you want to use your laptop and you have a hotspot, great. But really, most people take an iPad that has phone capabilities so that you can have the internet automatically in there. We have to remember that we're not always in high income areas. So planning on using their Wi-Fi doesn't typically work out. You want to make sure that you have something that you're going to be able to take to the appointments. The other things that you're going to want for your appointments are going to be the financial inventory. So this is going to be really important. This is something that we'll go over a little bit more in depth. Again, not pulling out the emotion, but how to correctly fill this out and what do you do in your first 20 appointments, okay? So this is all going to be on FFL America. If you guys don't know, click downloads, and then it's going to be right at the top under financial inventory. So it's actually going to have two things on it, which is going to be this and then the credibility sheet. So the other thing that I always carry with me is the acceptance sheet. So this is something that Carlos Samaro put together for us, and it's great. It has some of our carriers. It has our information. So this is just saying, you know, what we did today, the carrier, the plan, the amount, and then this is letting them know the next step. So this is just saying congratulations that your application was accepted, not to be confused with approved, because I don't tell anyone in home that they're approved. I just tell them that I put it through and they'll hear back. So this is just letting them know that. So I make sure I fill all of this out. I write my admin's name, and then I leave a business card as well. So the people that are not leaving something behind, what tends to happen is the moment that you leave, if you're not leaving something with them, they tend to forget why they did it in the first place, and you're probably going to see a higher chargeback. So unless they have something tangible, the chargeback rate is going to be higher. So those are two things that are super important, okay? The other things that you can do if you guys are in licensing right now and you're not fully contracted, but you have some numbers, the other thing you want to do is order sales material, okay? There's nothing better than going into an appointment and being able to talk about Americo Eagle and open it up and point out all of the benefits. So for those of you that don't know, you can go to all the different carriers I have. So here's Americo, this is Aetna, we have AmAm, Transamerica. So I carry one of each in a folder, and I leave behind the extras. So I do want to show you this folder just because I do think it's nifty and it's kind of a one and all type thing. So I got this for like $1. It is the Mead brand at Walmart. So inside it has a spot for my cards, my deliveries, which we're going to talk about. And then on one side, I just slide all my product, my sales stuff. And then I have my financial inventory along with my acceptance sheet. Okay. The other thing that you want to have is going to be your business cards. These you can make them however you want. It does not matter. I created my own, and I wanted to put, you know, financial planning. I want people to remember that we do more than just life insurance, since eventually I want to get a little bit more into annuities. But if you're looking for just like a dummy format, there is one on Family First Life, so you can go down there and download it as well. I actually kept the America logo, but you can use the FFL, Republic, whatever team you're on. But just make sure that you have business cards. I went to Vistaprint. You can get a ton of them. They always have discounts. So make sure you have those. The other thing is when you're new and you're not as good on the phone, something that you're going to want to do to add extra activity and appointments is going to be delivery cards. So these are also on Family First Life. What these are delivery notices. So for those of you that go out knocking, there's nothing like driving 30 minutes to Doris's house and there's nobody in the carport and you can't, I mean, nobody's there. They're not going to know you're there. So you just spent your time and your energy, at least try to salvage. And so what this is this is just letting them know they have a delivery. I use the same confirmation I leave over the phone, my contact information. And I would say that my ratio for these is about 50%. If I leave one, I get a phone call back. And of the 50% that call me back, 50% I get an appointment, right? So either I'm closing that lead out and I know that they're not answering for a reason, they're not responding for whatever it is, or I'm getting an appointment. So I always do this in between my calls. So that is something important. And The other thing you want to have as a new agent is going to be your license. So I have mine laminated. I'm licensed in multiple states and so I just have it tucked back here. Okay. So your license and the credibility sheet. So this is attached to the financial inventory. So every time I go into a home, I have this. This is good for multiple reasons. It's showing them something. You're gaining credibility. They trust you. They have something with your name, your license. But I do want to also talk about what's inside here. So for those of you that are in your first 20 appointments, which I assume most of you are, you're not going to use this quite yet, but it's really great to just start getting used to it. So on FFL America, under products, there's a term cheat sheet and a whole life cheat sheet. So I actually have those printed out. And this is a good way to start understanding what your upline is doing when they're doing underwriting. So we're not going to spend too much time on this, but for those of you that are going to print this out and carry it, I want to at least show you how it works. So let's say I'm sitting in a home and I'm going to do whole life. So that's right up here. So I'm going to go to my whole final expense cheat sheet. And I'm sitting with someone that says that they have COPD. So up here are our main carriers. And on this side is all of the diagnosis. Okay, so all of the medical conditions. So all you do is let's say they said they have COPD. So I'm going to find COPD, right? And I'm going to go over. And you always want to try to get someone in immediate solution, right? We don't want them to have any waiting if they don't have to. So this one says that Mutual of Omaha is going to be graded. America is going to be guaranteed issue. Prosperity is graded. Aetna is standard. So obviously in my mind, I'm like, perfect. I'm going to go Aetna. Okay. But then they also say that they have diabetes. So then it's going to be a process of elimination. So we know that most people don't have just one thing. So you want to just go down the list. So COPD. So in my mind, I know I can go Aetna and Foresters. Okay. Then I go down to diabetes and I go to Aetna because that's the one that said it was standard. It says allowed. Okay. So I know that likelihood is based off medical conditions. I can go Aetna. Now, as far as prescriptions, there are one-off things that will throw you off. You just have to kind of go with those curveballs. But essentially, that's how you underwrite. This is how we got good at this, is by studying this. And if you are in a home and you have this printed out, you can always look at this, kind of guess like, okay, I think it's going to be this. You're going to call me in the home. You're going to call Matt in the home, whoever you're calling. And then if they tell you that it was the product that you know, then you're going to gain confidence and eventually you're going to be able to do this on your own. Okay. So that is the other thing that you're going to want to make sure that you have. And then the badge. So I do wear an FFL polo every day. So I don't always wear my badge. If I decide to wear a shirt like this, then I'm going to wear my badge so that they know who I am. So I ordered this off of Dazzle, but you can also go to Family First Life and they have kind of a template of it as well. I just chose like some of the carriers. I put field underwriter just because that's what we say that we are when we're going into the home. So I don't put broker, I put field underwriter. So, and then my license number. Okay. If you're going to put a number, make sure you put your NPN number. If you're going to be traveling, you don't want to put just a state number because that's going to change. So you just want to have one. So there's that. And then the other thing in regard to polos and swag, if you guys want to be able to do those as well, that's going to be on Family First Life under apparel. Okay. Before we move on with any kind of printouts and things to take in the home, does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. All right, good. So Darla, are you there, darling?
I'm here.
Okay, perfect. All right, guys. So I've asked Darla to do some role play with me. So today, as I said, I want to go over the financial inventory with you guys so you understand how I'm filling this out and how I'm battling some objections just by getting really good at this. When I first started, I would do final expense appointments and I would skip over the mortgage information because I'm like, why do I care about that? This isn't a mortgage appointment. And then I very quickly learned that I wasn't selling anything because I had no ammo in my gun to pull at the end when they were giving me objections. And this is going to give me everything that I need. So, Darla, are you ready? We're going to just go over this. I'm going to fill this out while we're talking. And guys, please remember, I'm going to kind of just do the basics because I want you to understand how to fill this out, but I'm not necessarily going to go into how to win the sale. Okay. This is more about the fundamentals of what you need to do to be successful to get through the appointment. Okay. So Darla, I want to pretend like I'm just sitting down so that people can understand exactly what it looks like. So when I sit into a home, I'm all business, I sit down, and the reason I have this is I slide it over and I say, now, Darla, this is my state license. What this allows me to do is gather information from you in lieu of you going to the doctor. None of these are going to be medical. They're all non-medical, so we're not going to do blood draw or anything like that. And then I turn it over and I say, these are some of the top carriers that we use. The nice thing is that we do use all A+ rated carriers, okay, which allows me to really shop for you. I'm like the Expedia of insurance. Now, what I'm doing there is I'm trying to make sure that they don't tell me they want to shop around. I'm letting them know that I have a ton of different carriers and I'm going to do the shopping with them. So if I didn't have this in front of me, it's hard for them to visualize, but it's easy for them to see, wow, she does have a lot of options. And they're in their mind, they're thinking, I'm going to be checking every single one of these, even though we're not, right? So it's just building that. And then I always say, and we're here, I do 3 things, and then I point. Mortgage protection, life insurance, and future income planning. I know we're here today for the mortgage protection. Sometimes I do sit in homes that I'm able to find multiple needs, but we'll go over that. Now, this is important in my mind. I slide this and I kind of just set it right in front of them. And the reason why I do that is because I want them to be looking at all the different carriers. I want them to see what we do in the off chance that there may be an annuity there, or I'm helping with final expenses and they're going, oh, I don't have anything to cover my mortgage. What is that, right? So these are things that I'm doing to set the appointment to make sure that they know that I'm going to shop around for them. All right, so I sit down. All right, Darla, I know that I'm here today for the mortgage protection. What I want to do is go over some information with you to be able to identify where we want to go with this. My job is to do 3 things. 1 is to make sure that I understand the need versus the want. Sometimes people need more than they want. So it's my job to make sure that I kind of level that out. What I did there is I relieved sales pressure because I basically told them that even if they want more, I'm probably going to try to adjust it down to the need. So that helps ease people in the home when they're like, oh, this is nice to hear. Someone that's not going to try to max me out. I typically throw a joke in, a lot of people have champagne taste on a beer budget and they'll chuckle and then I'll move on, right? I don't build too much rapport, but I like to throw one-liners in and just move on. The second thing that I'm going to do is make sure that it fits in your budget, because if you can't afford this next year, there's really no point in us doing it today. My job is to find something that you can afford today, tomorrow, and when the time comes that you need it. Does that make sense? Yes. So after every single one, I'm having them acknowledge. So I'm using the yes. I want them to get on board with what I'm going to do. And then I get down, I say, and the third thing that I'm going to do is make sure that you qualify, because not everybody does. And what I'm doing there is I'm taking it away, right? I'm making it seem like not everyone gets this. It's going to be great if you do, but not everyone does. So we're going to have to see. So when you're able to kind of break it down in those 3 things, it's easy for them to see why you're there. And then I'll say, now, Darla, if I'm able to find something that meets your needs, fits in your budget, and that we think you can qualify, is there any reason why we wouldn't submit for coverage today?
I don't see why we wouldn't.
Okay, perfect. So I'm trying to get them to acknowledge and understand what we're going to do. So I say, one, just for those of you that are writing it down, I'm here to find the need, not the want. Two, I'm here to make sure that it's something that you can afford. Three, it's something that you can qualify for. Once we find all three of those, I'm going to help you to submit for coverage. I'm not the one that can make that decision. Actually, you can't either, Darla. The carriers have to decide if they want to take you. Does that make sense? Makes sense. Okay, perfect. And then that's when I throw in. So I want to make sure that she understands. And then that's when I throw in the, if there's any, if I find something with 1, 2, and 3, is there any reason? And then they say no, and then we move on. All right, Darla, how old are you? I'm 67. You're 67. Okay, perfect. And what's your date of birth? January 23rd, 1959. Okay, perfect. And are you still working, or are you lucky enough to be retired? I'm disabled. You're disabled, okay. And retired. All right, perfect. Now, as far as that, are you getting Social Security and disability, or what are you getting? Okay. Both of them. All right, perfect. Now, I don't start talking about finances up front, guys. I just want to get their name and who they are first, okay? And then I always jump up to the mortgage. I find that if I jump right into the financials of how much they make, they can get pretty offensive. So I want to build a little bit of like, yes, and I want them to start answering questions before I get into something that invasive, okay? Now, the home, Darla, how much do you owe total? I think I owe about maybe 20,000 left. Okay. Mm-hmm. 20,000. All right, perfect. And then what is the house valued at? I would say now maybe about 230. 230. Okay, great. And then, so that means you have right now about, wait, did you say 20,000 or 200? You said 20,000. I owe 20,000 left, okay. But I bought it about, okay. I bought it for about 130. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have about 200,000 worth of equity. Now I'm saying this out loud because I want to build a case. So when I'm going through the appointment, oh, wow. Okay. So you have about 200,000 worth of equity. Now, guys, when you ask someone what the house is worth, they're super excited to say what it's worth, and they typically overcut it, but that's great because you're building an even bigger equity for them. So you just kind of go with it. Now, Darla, is that a 15, 20, or a 30 year? It's a 30. 30. Okay. And did you just purchase or refinance? I refinanced a couple of years ago. Okay. Now, when you refinance, how much money were you able to save on the payment? I would say about maybe 180. 180. Wow, that's great. And then as far as monthly payment? The monthly payment's about $875. $875. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Now, guys, this next part, so I'm going to fill it out and I'll show you guys this, but this next part is not on here. So make a note of this. Once I'm done getting what the house is worth and all of that, I say, now, Darla, outside of the mortgage, what other big payments do you have, such as a car note, phone bill, things like that? Just my car. That's about $300 a month. Okay. What else? Like, do you have anything like gas, water, stuff like that? Yeah, gas. I don't really go anywhere, but gas, I would say about maybe $100 a month. 100 a month. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So, what would you say that at the end of every month you have left over after all your bills are said and done? Maybe about 400 or 500, depending on if I'm just kind of on a, I guess if I'm just trying to budget, I try to save, but sometimes things come up. Okay. Now, guys, this is ammo for the end of the appointment. So I do want to show you what I'm doing. When I write this down, I write it up top. I circle it real big because they just told me they have $400. So if I can find something under $400, I can use this. The other thing that I write on this side that's not on here is how, if they did a refinance, make sure you know how much they saved. And I circle that as well. That's my second ammo. Okay. So those are two things that are not on here that you want to make sure you're asking. Now, Darla, you said that you're on disability. About how much are you getting a month?
About 600.
600. Okay. And then you mentioned that you're also getting Social Security. How much are you getting for that?
About 1,200.
About 1,200. Okay. So right now, it looks like, so you're bringing in about 1,800. And then we've already talked about what she has extra, so we don't need to spend much more time on that. Now, are you a smoker or non-smoker?
I used to be a smoker, but I stopped maybe about 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay, that's great. Definitely. So we'll be able to get you into a non-smoker's rate if we find something that you qualify for.
Okay.
Now, guys, before I get into medications, I jump to medical conditions because that's really going to tell me that what I need to make sure that when they're going through their prescriptions and I'm asking. So, Darla, have you ever had a heart attack?
No.
Stroke?
No.
TIA?
No.
Cancer?
No.
Any stents?
No.
What about diabetes?
Yes, I have diabetes.
Okay. How long have you had that?
For about 10 years.
10 years. Okay. And then any neuropathy with that?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay, that's good. You don't want that. What about high blood pressure?
High blood pressure, yes.
High blood pressure. Okay, perfect. And then what about any kind of lupus or rheumatoid arthritis?
No.
No? Asthma or COPD?
COPD, yes.
COPD. Okay. And then any thyroid issues?
No.
Anxiety or depression?
No.
Kidney or liver disease?
No.
Okay. And then, Darla, I skipped over this. How long have you had COPD?
When I had stopped smoking, so about 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay. That's why you stopped smoking. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm doing when I'm asking those questions is that's the way that I'm gaining, like I'm getting them to have interest in our conversation. I always talk to myself like that. I think it just puts my clients at ease. But a big thing when you're going through the medication is always ask how long that they've had it, because your upline is going to need to know. So if they've had a heart attack, telling us they had a heart attack means nothing. And there's nothing, worse than you now sound like the professional. You get on the phone with your upline and we're like, when is the heart attack? And you're like, oh, when was the heart attack? It's like, right, you want to have all of your information ready to go. So make sure if they say yes to any of the conditions that you're noting, how long they've had it or when it took place. Okay. Then you jump into medications. We're not going to go over that. We'll just say that she's on, metformin and lisinopril for the high blood pressure. Now I'm asking if they've had any major surgeries health-wise. I always say, now is there anything, have you had any kind of major surgeries? I'm talking more engine, not body work, right? I want them to know, we need to know what they've had done and what kind of medications. And then I always ask about their family history. Guys, it may not seem important to talk about that, but if you're physically asking them about their mom and dad, and they tell you that their mom died at 59 from a heart attack and their dad died from liver disease at 62 and she's 67, it's like, wow, you're 67 and you don't have anything put in place, and your parents, you've lived longer than them, right? So these are all things that are just building up the value. So make sure that you're asking those. As far as you have anything to offset the mortgage when you die, such as 401k, and you're literally just going to ask them these questions. This is not so important in the beginning. I don't want anyone new to get hung up on trying to find annuities, but just for those of you that are interested in getting good at that, that's where you're going to find it. right? So if they say, yes, I do. Oh, you do? Oh, yeah, I have a 401k. Okay, perfect. Like I circle it and then you can come back to it. Don't try to deviate from the appointment and annuity hunt. Get what you're there for first, and then you can go back to that at the end. Okay. Ask if they have any life insurance. If they do, and it's private, you always want to get the policy, find out what they have. Make sure, especially when you're new, it's hard. It can be intimidating to look at someone's policy that you have no idea what you're reading. So you want to make sure that if they do, you guys can write this down, the things that you're looking for, if they have private insurance, you want to know how much they're paying per month, what their coverage is, and if it's going to expire. Okay. The fourth thing that may not be so obvious to a new person is making sure that it's not accidental. People are really good, or agents are really good at selling accidental plans to people without telling them it's an accidental. So they think they have 200,000 and they're paying $799 and it's accidental, right? So you want to make sure that you're understanding and you're getting those four things. That's going to build your case. And guys, sometimes you go into a home and they did their whole life policy when they were 35 years old, and there's nothing you can do you're not going to price match that, right? Like you're not going to beat that price. The best opportunity you have in that situation is to add a value and try to get them additional coverage, find additional needs. Do they have the mortgage covered? Do they have legacy, right? There are 3 reasons why people buy life insurance. One is for funeral final expenses, 2 is for income replacement, and 3 is for legacy. So maybe they did a whole life and it covers a portion of that, or one of those, it covers legacy, but they didn't do something else, right? So maybe identifying, and you might be able to find an opportunity to add additional coverage. So don't get completely discouraged if you go in and you can't beat the price. Just try to find somewhere else that you can, squeeze in. And then as far as work insurance for new people that don't know how work insurance works, I would say, Darla, that's great that you have work insurance. Most people have that as a supplement. So I'm really glad that you have that. But what most people don't know is you don't own that. And if you stop working there, whether it be because you retire or you get laid off, you no longer have coverage. And so I don't know about you, Darla, but I don't want someone else in charge of what I'm leaving behind for my kid. I want to make sure that I'm in charge of that. So that's why most people put something in that they own, and then they keep that. I mean, you're in a group plan and you're getting a great price, Darla. So it was really smart that you signed up for that, but this is just going to strengthen your position. So what I did there was basically, I gave her a compliment. I want her to know, like, she did a good job, but let's do an even better job. So I think sometimes when we're new and we down talk the work too much, it almost makes them feel like they're dumb because that's all that they have, right? And they're 60 and they had no idea that they were going to lose it. So if you're encouraging your clients and letting them know, like, that was a great job, let's just see what we can do to strengthen it, right? Then they trust you, they appreciate the compliment and they're more open to hearing what you have to say. And at the end of the day, you have to remember, they had that group insurance through their work when they went online and filled out the form. They didn't suddenly get group insurance in the last 3 days since they booked an appointment with you. They had it then, just like the people that had a plan for 30 years. They had it for 30 years. They didn't fill out a form just because. They are interested to see what there is out there. And if you can meet that need and create a value, then you're going to walk away with the sale. Okay. And then as far as the identity theft and do you have a will, I personally don't do that. I try to get in and out of my appointments. I would rather use my extra time on cementing the appointment and making sure that that's not going to charge back than I am about focusing on identity theft and trying to make those little small tweaks. So the other thing that I wanted to go over with you guys is something that really helped me to not get the the people that don't want to give me their banking and they don't want to give me their social security. Okay, so we're going to go over that in just a quick minute. But when you have this form, this is where you're going to turn it over. I'm writing with markers, so it would normally be clear. That's where you're going to write your numbers, right? So like, let's say you were going to sell 10,000. I'm not going to be too descriptive, right? 30,000. So you're going to write it. You're going to slide it over. You're going to figure out what your sale is. Let's say Darla said she wanted the 20,000, right? So when I split it over and I said, now Darla, of these options, which one do you want to leave for Bob, right? And she picks the middle one because most people will. This next piece is something that helps me to avoid the ones that don't want to give me their social and their bank. Okay. Now I already have it pre-written, but just so you know, I have a blank sheet and I write it in every single appointment. I think if I just had it printed out and kind of pointed, it's not as impactful as they're physically seeing me write it. So I say, now Darla, how this works. So now I've identified she wants it, she likes it. I need to make sure she trusts me and understands the process of what this looks like. So I say, now Darla, what they're going to do is and guys, I'm writing as this works. What they're going to do is they're going to use your social security number to pull up your MIB. What your MIB is your medical history. That's going to tell us everything that's been put on your prescriptions. Okay. And the other thing that they're going to do is they're going to validate, and I write the word validate out. They're going to validate your bank. Now, Darla, the reason why I say they're going to validate is because they're not going to take anything out. What they're doing is they're making sure one of two things, and I say it just like this, is one, that you have a bank in your name, and two, that it's not from overseas, because that's illegal. We don't have to worry about that with you, right, Darla? Now, I just completely, I made a joke about, insurance fraud, or that would be illegal. And if they naturally laugh, then guess what? They've now just forgot I asked about the bank. So I'm going to continue going, right? Even I'm not pausing. I'm going to continue with my piece. And at the end, they're like, wait, you need the bank? Yeah, Darla, remember when I said that? Go ahead and grab it, right? I have ammo because I just went over it and they said they understood. So from here, so I say, okay, perfect. So we're going to need your social, your bank. I write it just like this. Now, what we're going to do today, Darla, is the application process. You can't do that yourself. You need to have someone here that makes sure that you're not 400 pounds or sitting on oxygen. So I'm going to be here to help you do that. Okay. Now we can't make any decisions. Like I told you, it's going to be 1 to 3, depending on, what the product is. I'll write 1 to 5 days or something. If they're really weird about not making a decision, there's the think abouters. Do 1 to 7 days. It makes them feel like they have more time to decide, right? So I'll say, it'll be 1 to 3 days for them to decide 1 of 2 things. What do you think it is, Darla? I'm getting them interacting in this piece, and they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, of course. You're either approved or you're denied. Okay. Now, this is my favorite part because this helps me with a lot of my think about it. Okay. So I say you're either approved or denied. Now, Darla, if you're approved, they're going to expect first payment. And I write it like this, right? But I actually say it the reverse. So when I write it down, I just want you guys to be able to see what I have on here. I say, now, Darla, if you get declined, nothing happens, because like I said, and I draw a line and a circle and I cross it out, because like I said, they're just validating. So I'm just reassuring them once they give me their bank, nothing is happening. So if you get declined, nothing happens, because as I said, they're just validating it. But if you get approved, they are going to expect first payment. Does that make sense? Yes. Any questions? No. Okay, perfect. I go straight to my iPad. I'm like, go ahead and grab your driver's license. And I go in for the sale, right? But for the think about it, okay, there's one additional piece that I put in for the thinkers. So if they go I don't know, I really need to think about it. Perfect, Darla. So right here, right in this little blank space, this is this. And I write 30 days. We have 30 days to make any changes. I never say cancel. I say we have 30 days to make any changes. So as I told you, they're going to think about you for 1 to 7 days. And I mean, you think 7 days is enough time to think about it? Well, yeah, okay, perfect. So we won't even know. And then when we do, we'll have a full 30 days for you to make any changes. So whatever that looks like, up, down, whatever makes it most comfortable for you. Are you going to need more than 30 days to decide? And then most times they say no, because nobody takes a month to decide. I mean, so this is just something that I do in every single appointment. And then when I go, they normally don't have an issue giving you a driver's license. But once you get into the Social Security and the banking, then that gets hard. So I literally keep this on the table right next to them. And then when they are like, wait, banking, I'm like, yeah, Darla, remember when I said I'm going to need your banking and you said you understood? There's no way to do this without that. So, you know, who do you use? Wells Fargo or whatever, right? And at that point, I'm pulling up Wells Fargo routing number and I'm going into it. I'm making it no big deal because they said it was no big deal because I showed them and I wrote it down and they invited me in their house and they said that they wanted life insurance. And I found something that fits their needs and I found something that they can qualify for. And I found something that fits in their budget. So they're going to go get their bank account and their Social Security number and then we're going to close the sale. Okay. So those are all the things that I think build the foundation of a good appointment. As far as everything else, I think it's really important for you guys to go into, YouTube of, I think one of the best ones is going to be Paul McLean, 8 Steps to Final Expense. There's some door knocking ones as well for those of you that are going to be door knocking. What if they say they don't have a bank account? Then I eat into that a little bit more. Another thing, when you're doing financial inventory, that you can add in, if you start getting a lot of people that don't have a bank account, what you can do is when you're asking about their monthly income, always say, okay, perfect. Now, Darla, what bank do you use? Because some of these carriers give discounts. Everyone loves discounts. And then you're going to find out right then if they have a bank account or if they don't. So if you're struggling with that, just implement that into this piece and write down Chase or Direct Express, because there are ones that can take Direct Express or credit card. It just limits your options, but great question, Jessica. Just start asking that in the beginning so that when you call your upline. Now, as far as what this should look like, in your first 20 appointments, what I have my agents do is they take a picture of this. Okay, because I'm visual and I'm out there working, guys. Like your upline, they're not sitting at a golf course or behind a desk doing nothing. Like we're out there running with you. So sometimes I'm in my own appointment and I'm answering the call. So I'm impacting my personal sale to be able to assist. So what can you do to help your upline is be organized, be ready, and be efficient. And how you're going to do that is take a picture, send it over, and then call your upline. So that this way, when I answer my phone, I'm physically looking at it with you, and it's easier for me to be able to see it because then I'm kind of making notes. I'm listening, but make sure you send a picture of this. Now, when you call your upline, few very important things. Remember that this is business. And if you call us and say, hey, Erica, how are you? Like, I'm going to assume that you need me for something or just want to like touch base. So when you're calling your uplines, make sure like they're not going to be offended. It's, hey, Erica, I'm sitting with a client, right? We don't need to know about your day. You don't have to ask us about ours. It's just, you're going to sit with a client. So how you preface that is understand that the clients don't know what they don't know. They think that this is part of their process. They don't know it's your first 20 appointments. They just think that you take the information and you call your upline, right? You call your senior underwriter. So how you transition is, great, Darla. Now I have a pretty good idea of where we're going to go with this. But because I'm here with you and I'm not behind a computer and I can't see all the different prescriptions, I want to make sure we're going the right direction. So I'm going to give my senior underwriter a quick call. Okay, perfect, right? So now I'm calling. I just took a picture of this. I just sent this over to Clay, and then I'm going to call Clay. And this is the order that you should really do it. These are the important things, okay? Hey, Clay, I'm sitting with Darla. She's 67. She is a non-smoker. And then I list the medical conditions first. Before you start spouting out a bunch of medications, if you tell us that they have diabetes, high blood pressure, we're already going to kind of know what you're going to throw at us, as opposed to just throwing us a bunch of prescriptions, right? So that's how I do it. She has diabetes, high blood pressure, and COPD. She's currently on metformin, lisinopril, and Spiriva. She's looking to cover her mortgage, right? Now, obviously, this person's not gonna, well, it's not obvious, but this person's not gonna qualify for term. They're not gonna get a big policy. So for those of you that are sitting in instant appointments, you can sometimes be going and they want a higher face amount. So it's important that you understand that you're not the expert yet. And so these clients have this idea that they can get $500,000 for $999 because Colonial Penn said so. And it's our job to be the expert and tell them. So that's why it's so important that you tell us what you're looking for, because I'm going to say, Clay's going to look at me and say, yeah, they're not going to be able to do that. What you need to do is an equity close, right? And so we're not going to be able to sell a big dollar. They have COPD and other things. So that's the importance. There's always the genie. So after 20 appointments, if you want to use the genie, it's great. It's amazing. It's quick. It's quicker than us. We encourage that. But in the first 20 appointments, it's not just about getting this information to your upline. It's them helping to direct you. So if I have someone new that gives me this, I'm going to help them. I'm going to say, okay, perfect. Now you're not going to be able to do term. You're going to look at whole life. Do you know how to equity close? Right. And I'm going to ask them questions that they can say yes or no. And I'm going to help them build a sale. Okay, perfect. So you're going to show them 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months. So I'm literally going to help my new agent decide what they're going to show and what product they're going to show. So it's not just about knowing one thing. It's about the whole picture and helping you to get good at knowing what you can do in that appointment. Okay. A big thing when you're calling your upline, make sure that you're not using your speakerphone. Never put us on speakerphone. I think Gage just did a thing on FFL America, and he said that he puts them on speaker and then he helps his newbie sell it. If that's the way you want to do it, you need to make sure that your upline knows, because I know that like Matt Ludwig calls me in the home, I'm going to tell him what to write. I'm going to be like, go get him, buddy. Right. Like I'm going to encourage him. And if I say that while I'm on speaker, well, one, I look like an idiot. And two, he looks like a salesperson. I'm going to be like, right. And so make sure you're not on speaker. If you need help selling it and you don't know how to describe it, and that's okay. Let's say you're new and I just say, do you know how to do an equity close? And you're like, no. Then at that point, I'm like, okay, perfect. Go ahead and put me on speaker and I'll help you, right? And then I'm giving the okay to be on speaker and I'm going to help with the sale. So I'm okay with that. And I'm sure all of your uplines are as well. So I know there was a lot of information. It's been 15 minutes. I really was going to try to cut it down to 45. So is there anyone that has any questions? Thanks, Dan. Just got them done today. All right. Anything else? No, we had so many questions the last time. So either not very many questions or I was more thorough today.
I do have one question.
Sure.
I'm having trouble with the system. Is that the way that it is?
With the CRM?
With the actually going into the customer's house and putting the applications through Americo or getting the quote through Mohama. So the system is very slow. Is that the way that it is?
Sometimes it is. You want to make sure that you have all of the newest links. Sometimes they change, like they update. So make sure that you have those, which Patricia, I'm so glad that you said that. That's so huge. When I talked about the iPad, make sure that when you're going into your first day that you have all of your carriers saved. So you want to have the quote tool saved and you want to have all of your carriers. And by having all of your carriers, you want to have your passwords and all of that. This way you're not in a home trying to find your writing number and your login and all of that. So make sure your iPad is set up. But yeah, Patricia, if you're having like a one-off issue with just logging in, just reach out to Darla and we'll make sure that we help you.
Okay, thank you. I was
Sorry,
just wondering.
Oh, no problem, no problem. So it says, sorry, I couldn't hear why you need to circle the two amounts in the expense sheet. Okay, so let's say that at the very end of this, and I flipped it over, Darla didn't like any of these because they were too expensive. Well, I'm only going to show things that are under $400 because obviously I told her it was going to be fit in the budget. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of throw it at her, right? So if I pull this up and they say none of these, and I'm going to look at Darla, I challenge the clients, and this is super important to be able to get uncomfortable. You do it respectfully, but this is how I use this ammo against them. This is exactly what I say. So it's too expensive, and they're like, yeah, so you don't like the price. Okay. So Darla, when we went over your finances, we talked about this, and you said that you had $400 extra. And for this one, that's going to cover to make sure that your kids are not burdened with your funeral and final expenses. And you said that you want to leave them left over. It's only $100. So what I'm hearing is that it's not important enough, because we've already talked about that you can afford it. So is it that you don't understand what you're getting, or it's just no longer important to you to make sure that your family is protected? And I pause. More than not, they go, well, let me see those numbers again. And then they choose the bottom one, and then I downsold and I'm good to go, right? I start the application, the family is protected, and they adapt. But sometimes I'm like, yeah, it's no longer important. And if you have someone that you blatantly just told them what's going to happen if you don't put it in and they don't want to do it, then you pack up and you leave. So that's how I use that. And then it's the same thing here. Let's say they didn't have a ton here. You're doing a mortgage protection appointment. I always show something less than this, or right around this, or right above. So I'm going to probably show, if they saved 180, I'm going to show a 250, a 180, like right around there. And then I'm going to show something a little bit lower, so that when I turn the sheet around and they tell me for just to cover the mortgage, I'm like, well, you just refinanced, and I mean, you just did this last month, so you really haven't got accustomed to that new money. So why wouldn't you put this into something that's going to make sure that this home is here and that your family has a place to live when something happens to you? And I always say when, not if. And that's why I circle this, is I want to make sure that I'm reminding them that they just saved this amount of money. Like, there's no way in the last month that they suddenly are so accustomed to this money. No, it's important. This money was for the house. It should still be for the house. And we're going to find something. If you want to keep some of this, fine, we'll cut it in half. But we're going to put something in place. And it's typically going to be right around this dollar. Any other questions?
Can I add something? I know
Yeah.
Riyadh does something that has helped me out also. On one of his podcasts with Grady, is that, like, for the smokers, he asks them how much they spend a month on cigarettes, and then if the price is too high that they show him, he kind of uses that against them. Like, so you're willing to spend $150 a month on cigarettes, but you're not willing to spend $120 for your family. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And so that was some good stuff that has helped me from Riyadh, that I've learned from him, from his podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, right, Darla? It's like, that's really uncomfortable. When I first started telling someone, so you're telling, what I'm hearing is that it's not important enough to you to make sure that Bob is taken care of. Is that fair? Is that what I'm hearing? Right? Like, that's super uncomfortable. But now I don't say it rude. I'm just like, here's the numbers. This is less. Help me to understand the gap. And then if that doesn't work, I'll say something else. So, is it the price? If it's not the price, then is it me? Is it that you don't trust me? So you just have to find the why and dig a little bit more. I see the question about the 4 things. This is actually recorded. So just to protect time, once it's recorded, Julius will drop it into the chats. And so you can rewatch it and take some notes if you guys need. Any final questions before we drop? No? All right, guys. Hopefully this was helpful. If you guys have any one-off questions, reach out to me, reach out to your upline. Again, Let's make it a strong week. We're dialing in the Mesa office tomorrow. So if you're around an area that has an office, make sure that you guys are jumping in. If you're not, get on FFL live dials. It's super important as a new agent to make sure that you are on live dials every single dial day. Even when I was in an office, so I drove an hour and 15 minutes to an office one way every Monday, every Thursday. And even when I was there, I got on FFL live dial and I unmuted so that people could listen to me, help me, grow me, and I can learn. And that was how I was able to master the phones. Without getting uncomfortable, I never would have been able to do that. So make it a great week, guys. Reach out if you need anything.